knows this session is going to be recorded. Let me make sure. Can someone give me a thumbs up that if you can see my screen? All right. Let me switch on my video as well. All right, thanks, Andrew. Let me switch on my video too. All right, here you go. So for off the time, you'll see that I'm not staring at the screen because I'm using my second screen for the presentation. So please don't mind me. All right, so welcome to the September General Assembly. Good morning to all the GSG officers, the member representatives, and we have a few guests, so I would welcome the guests as well, and of course my fellow executive board members. Some general information before we get started with the General Assembly, just to lay down some, not rules, just some guidelines, and just so that we get used to this WebEx event. So since we are holding this meeting on a WebEx event, the way WebEx events work is we have a panelist, we have an attendee, and I think most of you are already familiar now with how this works. But for those who aren't, and since this assembly meeting is open to the general public and to all of graduate students, I just want to make sure everyone knows on how this, how the WebEx events functions. So we have panelists and we have attendees. Panelists can unmute their microphones, share the video, present, and also chat with every other participants. But then attendees can only use the chat option and also the Q&A option on WebEx events. You will not be able to use your microphones, you will not be able to speak, or you will not be able to share your video. Now, all the presidents of the GSA or the member representatives from that particular GSA were sent a WebEx invite via to be the panelist. The reason being that we would like one representative from each GSA who would ideally cast a vote or pass motions in our General Assembly to be added on as a panelist, so that they can interrupt me whenever they need to, and they can raise motions if need be, or ask concerns and for that GSA or their cohort. With that said, so I would like to make sure that we have all our member representatives for the given GSA on panelist. If not, Chan should, I'm not sure if Chan is here yet, but if Chan would be, our GSG Vice President Chan would be going through the list of all our panelists to make sure that they have, let me see, I'm getting a lot of messages. Just give me a second just to make sure I'm not missing someone or one of our guests are unable to attend. So, all right, so there is a lot of questions from someone to be made panelists. So just bear with me. What I will be doing is I'm going to make sure Chan goes to the participant list and ensure that all the panelists are member group representatives. If there are some member group representatives who didn't use the panelist link to join in as our panelists, then we will be I will be taking some time during Chan's presentation and adding you all as member representatives. Also, the panelists, the panelists is how we will mark your attendance for your representation from your GSA. So ensure Chan or Dominic, if Chan is not here, then Dominic will be taking those that attendance. Dominic is our campus ambassador. So make sure they reach out to you or you reach out to them if you're not a panelist and you're an attendee. Let's see. So our VP is having an issue joining in on WebEx. Let me just make sure like they have this link. Just give me a minute. Sorry about this. This whole platform is a bit new to all of us as on the exec board as well. I'm not able to, even with two monitors, it's getting really hard to manage all the windows here. Just a second, I'm just going to share this link. Or Andrea, can you share the link with Chan? I'm finding it hard to find the link. So if you can, if you
Dominic. Chan, you're here, right?
Yeah, I'm already here.
All right, perfect, Chan. I was actually trying to send the a meeting invite to you. All right, so since you're here, I think we can get started on our meeting. First, let me go on to our agenda. So I hope everyone's clear with how the panelists and the attendee function. So again, there are two different panelists for our member reps, our guests, and for the exec board. Attendees is for every other graduate student on the campus. And you can still communicate with us using chat. But again, to save the broadband and to manage this even better, only the member group representatives will be our panelists. Now, to get started with our meeting agenda, we will be starting off with Sakub and General Fee. We have our business administrator from Student Affairs here with us. And let me make sure she is in with us. Yes, she is here. So we have Renee with us, and we also have our Sakub representatives who will be talking about Sakub, and Renee will be touching upon General Fee and also the state of affairs at Sakub currently. Then we will be having undergraduate student government representative calling for who have called for racial equity with the University of Cincinnati. They will be sharing their call for action with the graduate student government, and they did reach out to me a month back for support from the graduate student government. And since this is our first General Assembly, I've invited them to share their response and see how the GSG would like us to respond, or if you would like to support their action. Then we have we have Jack Cohen, our BOT rep. He's here with us, and we know last time in the orientation we kind of ran out of time for the GSE orientation, so he couldn't present his slides and introduce himself. So he will be going next, and after which we'll be having reports from the exec board. Towards the end, we hope to have at least 15 minutes left, and at that point, I'm going to make all the attendees as panelists. In that way, everyone can unmute themselves and talk and have this lively discussion as though we are in a general assembly in person. So that's the agenda. And also, again, before the VP's report, Chan will be reaching out to everyone to make sure that all the GSA reps are present and they're marked for attendance. In the meantime, Chan will be going through the panelist list to ensure the GSA reps are present. For those who aren't, they will take a few moments to call them out during the report, just before the report. All right, without further ado, I would like to introduce Renee. Miss Renee. Miss Renee is our Director of Business Affairs and Student Affairs, and she also happens to be the Sakub advisor. Now, just before a little background about Sakub and the general fee, the reason we have Renee here is because, as you all know, our allocation from general fee is reduced because of COVID and because of the reduced general fee for for students in general. Because of which there has been a reduction in our Sakub pot of money. So Miss Renee is going to talk about general fee, its reduction, and what it means to student organizations, and what it means for us to access those funds and any additional funds that come with it. That would be the first action. That would be the first topic that she'd be talking about, and then she'd also be addressing some of the Sakub issues. So just to give all those representatives and who were present in our previous General Assembly in way back in March, and those who are new, an idea of what has happened in the past is, the GSG passed on a resolution to leave Sakub, looking at some of the citing the diversity problem at Sakub, and also with the lack of good practice in the way the Sakub committee is selected or elected within Sakub. So with regards to that, GSG passed on a resolution to leave Sakub until an external committee came down to evaluate Sakub. But we thought it's only fair to allow Ms. Renee and Sakub to give their perspective, to give their opinion, and also to highlight on what the state of affairs is in Sakub right now and how things have in fact changed, which they have relied to me over the email as to how things have changed over Sakub, and with some changes with respect to making Sakub, which basically represents university and gives Sakub a student advisory committee for university budget. So it basically advises university on various budgetary numbers. So without much delay, I'm going to invite Ms. Renee onto the stage. Along with Ms. Renee is Sakub Chair Chairs Morris and Sakub Vice Chair Hunter. Renee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. Again, good afternoon. I'm very excited, as Park mentioned, to have the opportunity to sit in front of the assembly. I don't believe I've done this for quite some time. I think I came, of course, in person back at an assembly meeting when Sid was the president and came in and talked a little bit about operations and some other things. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about really my role with SACUB, as well as how then my role plays within the rest of the university governance. And then also talk about GSG and how the importance of having our graduate students at the table and have seats at the table as part of the SACUB is so important. And then talk about, maybe exploring what things we can do to move forward. I am very excited. I think Chase is on the line as well as Hunter. I hope both of them have made it. Chase Morris is our SACUB chair, and then we have Hunter Crawford, who is the vice chair. And so there may be some points, especially if there are questions from the group, that Chase and Hunter may want to bring their student leadership perspective to this conversation. But there are a couple of points that I just like to make. And first of all, just give the introduction of kind of where I sit in my role as a director of business affairs in the Division of Student Affairs. I also serve as the equal opportunity coordinator for the division, which means that I ensure that we, whatever our talent acquisition, our hiring processes, recruitment and retention, that they are equitable and that we do them fairly and follow that process. And I work very closely with the Office of Equity and Access, Equal Opportunity and Access. And so that's another role that I have. But most importantly, the role that I serve in as the Division of Student Affairs is that I am responsible as the fiscal officer to oversee the general fee, also commonly known as the student fee. The reason why is that VP Merchant, Vice President Deborah Merchant, she is responsible for the general fee because it includes all aspects of those things outside of the academic world. It's why we, our students say the why, I come here to get a degree, but then why do you stay? We are the why, right? Some of the student experiences that happen in student affairs, the different associations and groups like GSG and student government, as well as over 500 different student organizations that we have. And so I oversee the university, and most recently, starting with fiscal year 21, as of July, I also oversee the general fee for Blue Ash as well as Claremont. And so that is pretty new. It's part of the centralization of that the university is going through, that we're all a part of the same budget model. And I know that Park as well as Chase sit on that, as well as Logan, I think, on the fiscal coordinating committee. And so they know that this is the new model that's working. So I have over $28 million in general fee, student fee money that I oversee. The majority of that money is directly going back into units. It goes back into student organizations. It goes to different departments across all three colleges. There is a portion of that general fee that also sits in indirect costs as well as scholarships. And so while I'm not responsible for that piece, I sit very closely with Pat Kowalski, who at times will join into SACUB as well, and who may also present here sometime. But we sit in central finance and we work through those numbers as well. But that's a pretty flat number that goes in those spaces. So my role with SACUB is then to serve as the advisor. And SACUB, again, is the Student Advisory Committee on the university budgets. And primarily the work that we do is really with the student fee to make sure it's equitable, to look at how we can increase revenues, to see how the allocations work, and then also to always keep at the forefront mission critical are students in that experience. And so we often will have presenters come in, those that are receiving money from the student fee, those unit representatives will come in, present, and then there will be decisions made about how to go forward with those units and allocations. So that's really that primary role there. The great thing about SACUB, I think, is number one, the diversity, right? Is that we have 27 seats and we try to make sure that we have a very diverse and inclusive representation across the university. 4 of those seats include, they are dedicated to graduate students, and they come from anywhere from GSG. They also come from the Medical Student Association, as well as Student Bar Association. And then we also try to find, we also have a seat that is held for an ethnic student that is usually based on a recommendation from MSA, GSG, or from the Student Bar Association. In addition to that, we have students who fill other seats that are graduate students. So they may not necessarily be holding one of the graduate seats, but they are coming from the lens and perspective of a graduate student sitting in a different seat. And so the structure of SACUB is very inclusive, it's very diverse. That is our intention, and very much so a part of the conversations when it comes to the finances of this university. Case in point, for the FY21 general fee, right? This is the first year, it's unprecedented, that we were asked to think about a fall semester only allocation. Usually the way the allocation has worked historically is that we give one annual allocation to whatever unit gets that allocation, and they have it to make decisions for the year. Well, we had to step back. We knew that we needed to think about what was going to change, right? Most of the operations here on campus, our classes are 76% remote instruction, and we knew that a lot of our in-person interaction and events that we had for students, that was going to change. And so we needed to make sure that in a very meaningful way, we recognized that when we went back to say, well, what will the student fee be for this year for students? So we decided, it started in central finance with Pat Kowalski, who I mentioned before, and he said, listen, we need to get the student voice on this. We need a representative from SACUB. We'd like to also have GSG involved, and we also like to have student government involved. And if you all, Renee, could start thinking about what's reasonable, what should we be offering or sharing with students at this point? The current fee was $398 per student per semester. And so we really sat down and looked at, you know what, as we think about all of the different events, all the programming, I started talking to different units outside of student affairs, outside of the student orgs, as well as looking at the financial historical trend of how much people were spending in fall semester. The three of us, the four of us got together, had very elevated conversations about, well, what's reasonable and what should we charge? And so at that point, together made the decision, again, GSG, SACUB, as well as student government, undergrad student government, that we would do a 10% decrease. So we literally reduced the general fee by about $40. And so instead of it being $398, it ended up being the $358 per student for the fall semester. That equates to about $1.75 million loss in revenue for the student fee. Again, a very hard hit, and we have, had to really think through that. But again, it was very important for us to show our students that we recognize that programming, services, events, delivery will be a little bit different. And so we wanted to make sure, with all the other hits that have been happening to families and to students who are paying for their tuition, that we extended this. And so that is the reason why we're getting a fall semester allocation this year. We're still working through what spring semester will look like. Again, everything is so fluid. It's based on COVID. It's based on the changes that are happening in our state, in our city. And so we really are waiting to figure out if we'll go back to $398 per student for a spring semester, or if it will remain flat at the $358 where we currently are. But that's just to give you a little bit of insight on how we move from something historically that was an annual allocation, and now it's been broken down to a fall semester allocation. And then on top of that, it was reduced as such because of the expected changes in that fee. So that's to give you a little bit of that. If you want me to keep rolling, I can. If you have questions, if somebody, I can open up the chat and keep up with questions there. But if I can keep, making points, but if any point anybody wants to raise a hand, just please let me know, and I'll be more than glad to take any of your questions. All right, hearing none and seeing none at this time. I'll talk a little bit more about really how we see, or how I see as an advisor, the different seats, but most particularly how we see GSG. We really need our graduate student voice, okay? And so the reason why we need that voice at the table is because of the amount of experience that comes with the diversity of a graduate student. We also are looking for the diversity and perspective regarding what we're doing right now as a university, especially in these very trying financial times. It is very important that we have a good lens and a very inclusive lens of what the thoughts are of our students. And so we missed that towards the end of spring semester, and COVID came. And so, it wasn't as high of an impact. We really had to change and shift how we communicated and the work that we did. But there were lots of discussions that were taking place, and we were missing that voice. And so my hope is to really see the assembly come back together, talk through some of the concerns that maybe past assembly members had, work with the new leadership that you have in GSG, but also work with the new SACUB leadership. I know Chase and Hunter and Park and Chan, I think there's already been some communication and dialogue across emails. And so your student leaders are going to come together. But in my role as the advisor, I will be there as well to just make sure we have that inclusive voice. And that number two, that we leave the space and the time, we commit the time intentionally to talk about the things that most concern the students, especially when it comes to the finances and the functionality of how SACUB works. And is this a new day for SACUB, right? All of this is changing, just like GSG is changing, right? We are being presented with an opportunity for innovation. And I think we miss that full opportunity if we don't have everyone at the table. So I am hoping that this year, in whatever way I can facilitate it, is that we are able to make sure we have the full representation this year of our GSG, our graduate students, as well as all the other 23 seats that are filled by our students. And so I really hope that any questions that you may have today or any discussions that you have, that we can talk through those. Again, you've got your executive teams on GSG, but you also have your executive team of SACUB, and really keep this communication flowing. In addition to that, I think there should be some more intentional touch points where SACUB has an opportunity to come before the assembly more often during the academic year, as well as any information that comes back from the assembly, that can be brought into SACUB as well through your representatives. So I will pause at this point and look in the chat just to see.
Yes, Ms. Renee, there are a couple of questions. Chan, if you do mind reading out those questions loud for Ms. Renee. And also for the rest of the graduate student body, if you're not aware of what the resolution was, I have a resolution pulled up on screen, so you can read through it if you want to ask questions based off this.
Sure. So first, I just wanted to direct to Claire. She's got a couple of comments, and Claire's been around for a minute and is in the med school, and health sciences. I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly how to put it, but the Claire has been in GSG for a while and has seen a lot of changes, and has a couple of comments. So the first one has to do with academic travel, and the fact that the budget doesn't have to stretch as much to meet some of the costs that a lot of these organizations usually incur in a usual year for events, because they can't hold the events. So Claire was wondering if, is the loss, is it somehow made up for the fact that these organizations won't be, holding those events because they see that there's less spending. And then they also commented a little further down, and they're looking at, Claire's wondering about, and we've talked to you about this before, Ms. Renee, about, how do we work together to promote some transparency, or knowing that GSG's voice is being heard. And we know that we're, of course, they're going to cut the grass right now. But I know that we've talked about that one of the most important things is for us to work through the process of coming back to SACUB, and also to work within the organization. And I just wondered if you could address Claire's two comments.
Sure. So I'll go to the first one. I think I can see it here. So the loss of the 1.7 out of the $28 million. So the $1.7 million is the loss for fall semester. So if we just want, for simplicity purposes, think of it maybe to split it, which is not really how it works, but it's 14 million. So 1.7 of 14 million, because that's just the loss for fall semester. The big change for a lot of the different areas is, and I'll just go ahead and give student affairs as an example, is that student affairs took about a $300,000 to $400,000 loss of that 1.7 million. So that equates to about 3 or 4 positions that we cannot hire. So from a student perspective, on the student level, what happens is that that means that we have staff members working in a much higher capacity to take care and to make sure the student organizations are ran well, to also provide student high impact and quality programming and services. And so at some point, while you may not think of it as a direct hit, some of these areas are losing staff. There were open positions that cannot be filled because the $1.7 million has to be recovered somehow. And so that is where we see the majority of changes. Other areas that got hit pretty hard, but again, based on COVID, I don't want to say it's not as much of a high impact. There were definitely changes that they have to do in their organizational units. But rec center, right? The CRC gets money from student fee. That was heavily reduced because we just don't have rec. There's not recreational sports that we can actually have right now. So rec sports took a major hit, a 6-figure loss for the first half as well. But again, relates very closely to just the challenges that we have, and we won't be able to utilize rec sports in the capacity that we have in the past. But again, that goes back to students at the student level. That means our students have lost rec sports. They've lost, a level of capacity within rec sports. And so, yes, it does have some impact at the student level. I don't think student orgs may think so as much. They may get less money to work with their remote conferences or any of their other activities that they have. But some of these units across, which we have about 52 units that get the student fee, get an allocation, they're going to have they've had a significant loss in personnel this year that may even slide into FY22 or even longer. And so that does impact the students at the student level. I think the second question or comment was regarding transparency and actually working together in GSG within SACOOB. I think number one is that I think timing is one thing. Last year, I recognized very probably early in the spring semester that discussions regarding charter, discussions regarding some of the business were not taking place until the spring, the end of the spring semester. We weren't having these conversations that we should have. I think in working with Chase and Hunter, that at the start of the year and also during the orientation or any of our team building, we should be addressing the business of running SACOOB and the business of the business and figuring out how do we get the voices. And, sometimes I know in student affairs, we stop and we say, let's pause. Let's pause and say, okay, where are we right now? How are people showing up? Like, what's happening? We weren't really discussing charter or any of those very concrete and major decisions that had to be made until the end. And that's really too late. And so this year, we want to walk into it having those conversations, and everyone who has a seat, including GSG and all of our graduate students, that everyone has an opportunity to kind of pause and stop to say, these are the things we want to address. We don't want to wait until the end of the year to talk about recruitment. We want to talk about recruitment now so that we could start putting some of our strategies in place very early. And word should be getting out now, right? We don't have, we're not there at the end of the year for us to start elections, but word should be out now. And we should be in different places and locations sharing what SACOOB is and what reps we would need for next year, and really starting to market that. One of the strategies that I did like from this past year, again, it was late because we just didn't talk about it until spring semester, was that I know exec team and those a part of recruitment actually reached out to people like me who sit on Staff Senate So I'm the treasurer of Staff Senate and the Budget and HR Committee chair for Staff Senate. And so they said, hey, how do you get the word out to all of your senators, letting them know that we are looking for new representatives for SACUB? And so that increases the diversity of where students are coming from. I know there was concern about coming from representatives coming from the College of just, Business or engineering. But that was one of their ways of saying, listen, let's get it out here and let's increase where we're promoting, who we're talking to. They did the very same with Faculty Senate, asking this very same thing. Can you get the word out? Can you, share this and also make nominations or recommendations so we can follow up with people? And so those are I think the strategies that we have to take, but I believe we have to do it very early. And I rely on the student leaders. I rely on the SACUB, the advisors, the board to actually have those conversations. Well, I am present to advise and I am readily available, but I'd like to see the initiative taken from the actual students. And we start that very early in this year.
Thank you, Ms. Renee. I'm going to take up one more question, which I see on my screen. But before that, I wanted to see if Chase or Hunter would like to address the General Assembly. I know Hunter had to leave. I'm not sure if he has left yet. But Chase or Hunter, do you want to address the General Committee? Probably they had to leave. That's okay. I have another question, Ms. Renee. So we have time for just one question. So it's a question from Rebecca who says, could you address how your division considers the differing needs of graduate versus undergraduate students when getting student fees and allocations? It feels that much of the student fee money goes to more undergraduate geared organizations, activities, etc. So we graduate students may be paying to subsidize undergraduate activities.
So, Pari, I just wanted to mention one thing here about this is Chan, about Rebecca's question. I want to thank you again, Ms. Renee, for coming today, and Hunter and Chase. And I know we've talked about inviting you back again because I wanted to just remind everyone that this is a new board. This is our first assembly meeting. This is a new group of GSA representatives, and a lot of people don't know what SACUB is, which is why we asked you to talk a little bit about it. And a lot of them don't understand how there's any sort of allocation, how it works. And we know that, there's a division between given how many graduate students and how many undergraduate students there are. But if you could go into that a little bit more, Ms. Renee, and just kind of give us an overhaul, because again, we're all sort of new to this. So thanks for your patience with all of this.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate that, Chan. So just to give a little bit of background before I walk into the allocation. So SACUB was absolutely created to address and be the student voice on any university budget matter. Primarily, it has been the student fees. We have talked to, and Pat Kowalski has actually come into the SACUB meetings stating that he'd like to see us be more involved and actually have conversations regarding other university budget items, which is why we're moving and we have student representation on the fiscal coordinating committee now. But SACUB itself really looks into the basis of what the original allocations were. So a lot of these allocations did not happen until about 2017-18. What happened with the student fee before is that it was kind of commingled with all the regular budgets. There was no delineation. There was no transparency of where student fees were going. And so SACUB at that time, and I can't think of Jake's last name, he was the student president chair at that time, SACUB chair. He said, listen, one of the number one things that we need to do is get the student fee out of the regular budget so we can see it. And so what happened about 2017-18, it was the creation of what we call these designated funds, D18. So just like GSG has a D18 account, we created separate accounts so that we could see where the allocation of all the funding for each unit that was getting an actual allocation from the student fee. At that time too, which predates me, allocations were actually set. They were set during that year with input from all the SACUB representatives. That's how the original allocation was set. So that included GSG reps, it included the undergraduate reps, it included all 27 seats had a say of where the allocation should go once they broke down the $28 million. Now, the $28 million is fluid. Again, it's based on the number of students. So right now we're basing it off of the 46,000 students, 46.3 across the board. But again, we have to keep retention to keep that 28 million. But that has been historically kind of where we average out. So the students selected and made a recommendation to VP Merchant, SACUB, to VP Merchant, and then that went to the provost office. And so based on that recommendation, and there's a memo from back in 2017-18 that we can share, it's been public for quite some time, that we can share, but really did the breakdown of where the allocation should go. So that's how the original allocations of the student fee, once it was broken out from the main budget, put in these designated D18 accounts, that's where that allocation came from. It was based on the student voice under SACUB with all its representatives. Now, pressing forward, every year thereafter, then SACUB sits down, all the reps are there, and they actually have had presentations. So everyone that gets a student fee allocation is asked to come present. And there's a series of questions, and there's a series of program operations they share with us. And so what happens is that at the end of all those presentations, the committee, SACUB, sits down together and they have discussion. And the discussion in the past has usually gone to, do we believe that if they haven't asked for additional money, they need the additional funds? And so then the committee starts to have that conversation. Do we feel like we need to award them for an additional staff hire or additional operating funds or additional for an event they want to have, a perm change for additional funds? Now that's back in the day when we actually would get additional revenue. We haven't seen a revenue increase. It stayed flat for the last 2 years, but that was the original question. So over the last year or two, the question has changed. If we get new money, do we believe that we should allocate more to this particular unit? Or if we're not getting more money, should we reallocate the 28 million? That means, is there someone who has not used their funding up for the last 2 or 3 years? How do we go back and look at the trend to see who's leaving money on the table or who's not having high impact? Do we reallocate some of their perm funding of student fee and give it to another organization? Again, that is a discussion and vote that takes place within SACUB by all of the members, all of the representatives involved. So that's how we got from, at the start of an allocation. First allocation, SACUB recommended, sent to VP Merchant, went to Provost, it was put in place. Now they're, going forward, SACUB then has those conversations, who gets additional money and any thoughts on reallocating money based on the presentations given by those units. So that is really how allocations work. It is not as if there is the VP Merchant or Provost saying we give money here, we give money there, we move it around. It is from the recommendation of SACUB of how funding is, allocations are given every single year. So I'm not quite sure, Rebecca, if you're looking for more, but that is truly how it works. It's not driven by administration. It's driven by the discussion and the vote amongst SACUB and also the available funds and revenues at that time.
Thank you, Ms. Renee, for addressing those questions. I think in the interest of time, I will forward any additional questions to your office. But thank you for making your time and coming and attending the General Assembly. We're happy to have you in our first General Assembly to clarify everything on budget. And we look forward to having you here again.
Absolutely. And anytime you want me to come back, just please let me know. But again, we hope to see GSG and all of our graduate students back in place. Lots of unprecedented things that are happening this year, and we just need the voice this year. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. And again, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Renee.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Anto. Yep. All right. Without much delay, I'll quickly go on to the next meeting business item. I'm sorry, Carl, Janice, and Rachel, we went a little over time. but there were some important discussions that we had to have at our General Assembly. So next to the General Assembly, I introduced the Vice President of Undergraduate Student Government, Carl Durking, and I also introduced Janice and Raphael, who are their senators. It's all yours. I'm going to make Raphael a presenter. Raphael, if you want to present something.
Yes, sounds good.
And also, apologies, I need to tell you why they're here today. So they're here. So undergraduate student government sent out a call to action for University of Cincinnati with everything that happened in this country with regards to racial inequity, and they have a very strong letter with suggestions and call to action for the university. So they're here to talk about that and see how the graduate student government would like to respond. You should be okay. I'm sorry. You should be able to present now, Raphael. Yeah.
Let's. It doesn't show me the option.
Oh, oops. All right.
Give me one moment.
You should be able to do it now.
Okay, yeah, I see it. There we go. Okay, and can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Awesome. And then let me make sure. I see Carl. Is Jan here?
Jan, you should be able to unmute yourself now. I'm sorry, you were on a panelist all this while. You're not. You were on an attendee list.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah, Raph, let me know when you're ready. I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah, I'm good. Good to go.
All right. Well, thank you, GSG, for having us today. Myself, Raphael, and also Carl, we come before y'all today amidst the reality that our nation is currently facing two pandemics, as we know, COVID-19 and also anti-Black racism. The murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Ryan Milton, and countless other Black identifying individuals show us a reminder that Black people are an endangered people. Racism is running rampantly throughout our nation, and no institution is immune, not even our beloved university. The University of Cincinnati has failed to act in the interests of the Black community and has neglected to create and sustain an environment where Black scholars can lead a dynamic and edifying collegiate experience. This is evident all the way from the university's inception, when Charles McMicken, a slave owner, endowed the university solely for the education of white boys and girls, to the 2015 murder of Samuel DuBose, one of 4 unarmed Black men, Black individuals killed by those sworn to protect the university. So with these injustices in mind, myself, Raphael, and Cameron Morrow, who couldn't be here today, were naturally called to join forces in the spirit of Ujima, which calls on us to maintain and build our community by making our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and solving them together. But not only are we student government leaders, we are also Black leaders. Our collective motto is to lift as we climb. And we want to see the place that we call home be a place of the people that we call home. So together with the contributions of passionate faculty, staff, students, alum, and many people from the Cincinnati community, we compiled a list of 10 concrete steps towards revolutionizing our university into a more racially equitable environment for the students that has historically failed. And then on July 10th, so over the summer, we sent this list of demands in the format of a letter to the members of the university's administration and board of trustees. And now we're excited to have this opportunity to present our demands before GSG to provide clarity and transparency of our goals of enacting racial equity on campus for the Black community.
Janice, if I can just stop you for a minute. Raphael, your screen, we have a gray box in front of your PDF, so it's grayed out. We don't see your screen.
Hold on for a second. There. Are you good now? I believe.
Yep, we're good now. Yep.
Okay. Hold on. Let me. Okay, sorry, let me close this down for a second. Okay, is it still good or? It's like I'm having a couple of issues. Is everything good?
It's good now.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so for our demand number one, in regards to not severing ties, but terminating the current standing agreements with external policing agencies, including the CPD, for university-sponsored activities, as well as de-escalation tactics to be used to in different places of intervention. I want to clarify we are not proposing severing ties with UCPD. That was a couple confusion regarding that. We are not severing ties with UCPD. We're asking that UCPD be requested for solely for campus activities and university sponsored events. An example of this is our FCC Cincinnati soccer games that take place in Nipper Stadium. Currently, they utilize CPD and other third-party security agencies to police these events, but UCPD really has the full capability to police these events on their own, and there's no need of additional presence of police. That really was the main focus of our first demand. For the second demand, regarding displaying the budgets from fiscal year 2015 to now, in addition to moving forward, we just wanted more transparency with the budget of our UCPD. With this transparency with the budget, it would help us in kind of enacting demand number three as well. With this, it's really a strenuous process to currently get the budgets going through the Office of the General Counsel. So we really just wanted this to be more clear information and not a whole long and drawn out process when getting this information. For demand number three here that I will display, it is regarding reevaluating the department budget upon release, as stated in demand number two, and then reallocating these funds to identity-based centers, mental health services, and some other initiatives. And allowing these faculty of these different offices and departments to determine what can be used for that. It goes without saying that we currently do underfund a lot of our identity-based centers and mental health resources. These additional funds will definitely help in the initiatives that they've been working on and creating some more of those opportunities that they've been wanting to generate for years to come, and helping us make a more community where marginalized students feel like they belong. With demand number four, is regarding removing Charles McMicken's name and any alterations of his name from our university property. This includes and is not limited to Macon-Max Contemporary Hall and McMicken Hall. While the university did remove the McMicken's name from the College of Arts and Sciences, like diplomas and official documents, there is still work to be done removing his name from the actual building. Currently, it's just a practice to not use his name, but the official building still stands as McMicken Hall. We aren't asking for the erasing of history, however, but we definitely don't think we should be memorializing a history that includes students and reinforces the belief that campus is not our home. As known that McMicken was an individual who was segregationist and exclusively wanted the university and endowed it for the education of white boys and girls only. And it should be well-known information that he did not intend for any Black students or non-white students to exist on this campus. The University of Cincinnati, as a historically and predominantly white institution, often leaves students feeling out of place and encountering a world of multifaceted racism. It's very traumatizing for these students to go through these experiences and go to a university that reinforces the idea that this campus is not our home and was not meant for us. And removing his name really helps validate Black students and other students of color's belonging on this campus. With demand number five reads that in collaboration with the Office of Equal Opportunity and Access and Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards, we would create a public database that would document all incidences of race-based discrimination from university employees. In addition, making these offices grievance processes and ways of achieving conflict resolution more transparent to the general body. These two offices currently serve as liaisons with an effort to promote equal opportunity and inclusion on our campus, as well as promoting a safe community by protecting the student rights. Being at this university often pushes Black students to navigate new territories and often face traumatizing experiences with our students, faculty, and staff. So we wanted to create this so that students feel like their experiences are valid and able to document these incidences more transparently and being able to know that our university is being proficient in keeping documentation and making sure that they're resolving these issues when they occur and relieving that emotional stress from our students.
Great. And so with our sixth demand, we're basically proposing that the university establishes a subcommittee to re-examine the DEI and SCE BOK requirements, and thus making sure that the classes that satisfy them actually have to do with like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we've spoken with students from a diverse array of colleges who were able to satisfy these courses with classes that did not address the guidelines outlined by the provost on the website, and thus defeated the purpose of having these credits. So in making this call, we realize that it's important that all students take advantage of these credits in particular because it does teach them valuable lessons about diversity, equity, and inclusion in this world. And they need to be educated on societal topics outside of programs in their specific majors curriculum. Let's see. And we've also been in contact with the Arts and Sciences team, Dean Ferme, who is the Dean of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Letitia Bates, and they're working with us on that. And then the College of CECH has also been in contact with us as well on that demand. And for our seventh demand, we're basically proposing the creation of a new breadth of knowledge credit on Black history and education, which, as you can probably tell from the name, focuses on courses that teach about Black history and education. So we're making this call. We realize that it goes without saying, Black history is American history, and unequivocally, America wouldn't be where it is today without the contributions of both freed and enslaved Black individuals. And it's also important to note that ignorance is the grandfather of hate. So if students are taught through other lens, just the Eurocentric one, individuals would have less ignorance on ethnic relations. And it also goes without saying that our American education system seldom mentions Black history and education from K through 12. And there are a lot of statistics that I could throw your way that prove that, but for the sake of time, I'll just keep going on. And we also want to make it known that requiring the BHE credit doesn't hinder students from taking other classes from other diverse arrays of areas. After satisfying BHE, most students will still have to take 3 credits of either DEI, SE, or TI. Not to mention, they also have to take humanities credit, fine arts, historical perspectives, SS, other BOKs. And then beyond that, students do have the liberty to choose whatever they want to take. So in summary, requiring one course doesn't equate to discouraging others. For our 8th demands, we are proposing that the university hires 6 Black tenure-line faculty members for the Africana Studies Department. And this really goes hand in hand with the previous demand. And also, it's important to realize that Africana Studies professors are intersectional professors, meaning that many of them also teach within the history department, WIGS, sociology, political science, and many other departments. So whether they're housed in Africana Studies or not, they'll still be teaching classes that are in other departments as well. And this is also a big need proposed by the African Studies Department itself because they've been wanting to get a grad program in there, and they can't do it with just the 6 professors that they have right now. Our 9th demand is proposing that CAPS hires at least 3 Black psychologists who are trained in race-based trauma because CAPS currently does not have any Black psychologists. And it's also important to remember that Black psychologists trained in racial trauma are not only equipped to treat Black students, they can treat all students. And I know we've gotten some questions about whether it's against the law to hire somebody specifically based off of race, but we're not thinking like that. We're thinking in terms of intentional hiring. So for example, the African American Culture Resource Center, they use intentional hiring because I highly doubt that they're probably gonna hire somebody that's Caucasian to be the director of the African American Culture Resource Center. So just intentional hiring like that. And then our final demand is proposing that the university recognizes election day and Juneteenth on the academic calendar and suspend classes. Without a doubt, and it goes without saying, voter suppression is an extremely prevalent problem here in the US. It comes in many forms, whether it's blatant or subtle, and forcing students to choose between exercising the right to vote and attending the required classes is yet another form. It's really important for college students to get out and vote because millennials and Gen Z will be the largest share of eligible voters in 2020. And because of our lower voting rates, we haven't been the largest share of the electorate in previous elections. And then in terms of Juneteenth, the importance of the holiday goes without saying. So if July 4th is recognized as a holiday on the academic calendar, so should Juneteenth. And that's pretty much it in terms of clarifying the demands. We have gotten over, I believe, 1,300 endorsements on our call to action. And Raphael will go more in depth about administration's response and what we've heard from.
Yeah. And again, thank you, Jan, for kind of, closing that off there. Again, with the updates, around 1,300 endorsements. We have over 1,000 UC students, 64 student organizations, 18 university departments, 100 UC faculty and staff members. And then in total, these student endorsements come from over 84 universities across the nation. But going into the updates as far as with administration, so as far as our first sort of correspondence, we did have a meeting with Dr. Marshall here around July 27th, near around that time, before that time. And by July 27th, we actually did receive a statement made by the president that is on UC's news somewhere. I can find the article and drop that in later. But we did have that correspondence, which led to us actually having a meeting with the president on September 3rd, and where we started to frame a strategic direction in addressing some areas of focus that are found both within our letter and another group's letter who also submitted to admin. Some of the areas that we want to focus on are inclusive excellence, kind of again wanting to make sure that our student voices are present, and then making sure that students' concerns are being directly sent to the president and the leadership who will be working on these incidences in this case, Dr. Bluzette Marshall and VP Lewis, university accountability, commitment, and execution. So at the end of the day, to be successful, plans actually must be acted on. Typically, these universities will start a conversation and then we'll go down the line and then we don't actually commit to an action. So we're wanting to make sure that we commit to an action. Again, some of the writers here, for example, Jan has came 800 miles to this school. So obviously there's a lot of love for this university and we want to see it come to its full potential. And then making sure that we commit to these, some 3 categories with racially equitable public safety relations, academics, and then obviously accountability and racial equity. And then lastly, kind of sustainability of, conversation. What will this look like in 5 years when me, Jan, and Cameron and the other writers of the letter graduate? Is this pipeline going to continue? Making sure that this continues and that there's a direct pipeline between students and administration when it comes to racial equitable issues and addressing issues that arise as it pertains to diversity and inclusion. And so that's kind of where we've been at so far with just talking to Pinto and other administration. We have brought in a third-party group called Identity something. I am so sorry, I don't remember the name of the group that we're working with, but they brought in a consultant. He's phenomenal, and we enjoyed working with him so far. So we really look forward to working with him as we kind of craft this direction for both students and administration to kind of work together as we, quote unquote, embracing racial equity, justice, and inclusion. So we're really looking forward to those conversations to continue. At this point, I would like to open up to any questions that anybody had or comments that anybody wanted to make.
Thanks, Raphael. We do not see any questions at the moment. We can take one question. So is there any for panelists who have a question for us?
I do see one thing here from Carrie. So first of all, I'd like to say to the undergrads, I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but you're getting a very strong response to this. I think a lot of the grads are responding very strongly to this. It's good fun, putting this together, and we're very glad you came to speak to everyone here today. So one of our grads has asked about specifying some language and in doing some of the work. So you're calling for certain positions to be filled. And again, this might be something that takes place in later steps as the administration were to address some of your calls to action. But I think they make a good point because they're talking about, how places of higher education do notoriously choose, people that have, sort of their knowledge of anti-Blackness, I suspect, and where they fall on that spectrum of that knowledge is a little questionable. And, you know, given they're treated in higher education, so Carrie's asking about essentially some of the more specific language, or how specific you might get on a little bit of the language in terms of who will be doing the work.
No, thank you. So I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, as far as like with who's doing the work, as far as like, for an example, the education and training classes and kind of some of that hiring processes, we definitely think it's important that we're utilizing our current departments who are doing some of the hiring, because they definitely, some of the professors and the other groups definitely have a better knowledge and background in some of those situations. But we definitely want a student voice present, because at the end of the day, when it comes to certain scopes like academics, you know, the students are going to be taking these classes. And so having someone who's might been experienced with taking classes in that department would be beneficial, and kind of having there for the education. Definitely, for example, with the TAPS thing, we want to make sure that while we can't necessarily say you have to hire a Black psychologist, like James talking about, you know, putting in there like having experience in racial-based trauma, and putting more work into your recruitment and outreach, reaching out to find those psychologists of color, not necessarily saying that you're going to hire them solely on that purpose, but looking to get a brighter and broader scope of people that you're hiring, so that we're bringing more people to the table to do this work who are qualified to do the work. We definitely do have some members here who are already qualified to do some of the job, but I think it's important that with that accountability piece, that when they're doing the job, that is actually going by notice and being transparent, and that if we're seeing them not doing their job, that we're actually addressing it. And I didn't know if Jan or Carl wanted to add anything to that. Or
I do see that Carl placed the, and thank you for that, Raphael. That does really clear a lot up. And I think that I saw that Carl placed the information about the consultancy that's being, that's in this loop, and that's great to know. And Jan has also posted the link to the letter. So if any other grads want to take another look at that.
All right. Thank you, Raphael. Thanks, Jan, and thanks, Carl. Carl, do you want to briefly mention something before I move on to the next agenda?
No, I think Jan and Raphael did a very good job. So thank you for inviting us to come present, and thank you to the members of the Assembly for all of your positive support. I'm sure that Jan, Raphael, and myself would be happy to follow up with anyone that wants to talk more after the Assembly.
Thank you, Carl. And thank you so much, Jan and Raphael, for giving that presentation and giving you and working so hard on making this community more equitable and racially equitable. We will follow up on this. So what we will be doing is we'll be asking the General Assembly to try to pass a motion on our next General Assembly, which is going to be on October the 7th, I guess. That's our first Wednesday of every month. So we will be asking our General Assembly if they would like to pass a motion on this to support the undergraduate student government's call to action. In the meantime, I will pass on this link to all graduate student representatives here, so that they can have this conversation within their GSA to see how they'd like to pass the motion, support this call to action, and we can have a discussion on this over the next assembly. But thank you, Raphael. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, Carl, for making it here and presenting on this wonderful initiative that you guys are taking up.
Yes, thank you all for having us. Thank you for inviting us here. I saw Margaret, your comment. Please email us, because we could definitely utilize your help. And we dropped our emails down in the chat. Please reach out to us if you have any questions at all, or if you really do want to help. Racial equity requires all hands on deck. It's not an overnight thing. It takes a whole village to make a change. And so once again, thank you all, and we look forward to what happens in the future.
Thank you, Janice. All right, thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Janice. So we will move on to our next business item. Again, we will follow up on this or our next General Assembly, and I will also send an email regarding this to our graduate student body. So next up, we have our graduate student trustee, Jack Cohen. We missed Jack Cohen on our orientation because unfortunately we ran out of time. So we are giving Jack Cohen the opportunity to talk. So Jack, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'll do a little bit of a quick introduction here. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. I know we're running a little behind, so I'm going to see if I can put us back on track. To start off with, my name is Jack Cohen. I've been on this position for about 3 months now. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I haven't been able to get that learning curve of meeting people and getting my agenda set and things like that about as fast as I really wanted to. But be patient with me as we get into the school year and we get folks coming in and out of the school. I do think my presence is going to be a little more felt, if that's the right word to use. A little bit about me. Undergraduate out of the University of North Texas. I see here that Jan, who just presented, is from Dallas, so another fellow Dallas native. I did my undergraduate in School of Business, Supply Chain Management, and Logistics. I'm currently doing my graduate degree, an MBA in Finance. So super excited to be here. I'm on my 3rd semester. The position here, so what today I want to do is show you guys kind of what the position is all about, how the position comes to be. If you guys are interested in the position, how you guys can also participate in the selection process for the next cycle, and kind of explain how the Board of Trustees is aligned and what they do, how they work, a little bit of that. But also, I want this to serve as a more general introduction. I do expect maybe by next General Assembly, I can come in with a little more pointed calls to action also on my behalf. I'm partnering here with the graduate student government to see how we're going to be able to join forces and I can be a voice from the student government for the graduate students into the Board of Trustees. So I'm still trying to find my voice. I'm still trying to find what the calls to action are going to be, but I'm going to work really closely with this team here to come up with that agenda. At the end of the slides, my contact information is also going to be available. So as we figure that out, please, if you have any questions, that's the best way to contact me. I'd love to field as many questions as I can and see how I can be providing that voice into the Board of Trustees. Now, who is the Board of Trustees? I think most people have heard the term Board of Directors before. Pretty much they are, I like to describe those folks as the long-term vision of the university. Most of these appointments are multi-year. I think the shortest one is 9 years. And so they're appointments by the governor of Ohio for the intention of carrying the university into the future, right? So they do have a lot of say. They do have final approval on a lot of the stuff that goes on, from approving degrees to approving expenditures of new buildings to the operating budgets of the university, things like that. While they are not actively taking the actions to realize all those plans, they're fundamentally the last people to approve them and to make sure they go into effect. So they do a lot of that long-term vision, along with the president and along with the senior faculty there. These guys are and girls and gals are supposed to be, setting up the university for the next 100 years, for the next 50 years. It's a generational commitment that these people make. So a little bit unique in that sense. As far as how we fit together, Abigail is the undergraduate student representative. I am the graduate student representative. The way they kind of get us in these positions, we're non-voting members, so we don't actually get a say, right? We don't actually get a vote, I should say, on the budget and presidential appointments and salaries and contract negotiations. But we do get a say. We do get a seat. We do get to voice our opinions. We do get to voice the opinion of the graduate student body or the undergraduate student body, if in the case of Abigail, wherever we can. We do serve in a couple different committees. So the way the organizational structure goes, you have your main board, but within those boards, you do have 9 committees and subcommittees. In each one of those committees, they meet a little bit more regularly than the board does. The board meets every 2 months as a General Assembly. The committees and subcommittees meet more often than that, typically once or twice a month, depending on how busy they are, how many actions they have going on. As far as the graduate students go, I do serve in the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and the Finance and Administration Committee. So we do have a very direct voice within those two committees, as well as the general board, right? But within those two committees specifically, we do get a lot of back and forth, a lot of items on the agenda, things like that. Now, what do those two committees do? The Academic and Student Affairs, I think it's self-explanatory. Everything that has to do with the students. This is really where I tie in with the government, student government that we have here, the exec board, things like that. How do I take care of a lot of that stuff into that committee specifically? Is really where I think you guys can be more closely tied in. But then the Finance and Administration Committee, that's more of a general committee. We do have appointments of president, appointment of some of other faculty members, promotion of faculty members, a lot of that human resources churn, the university policy. So we just went through an exercise of updating the student code of conduct and a lot of the student related policies that you guys have to agree to become a part of the organization. We do a lot of the annual budgets, operating plans, operating procedures, bylaws, as well as real estate. So the real estate subcommittee is part of the Finance and Administration. So they do oversee the acquisition of buildings, refurbishment of buildings, a lot of the footprint planning of the university for a 5-10-year plan. For reaching all of that. So as the student population grows, the campus size has to grow, the campus accommodations have to grow. So those are the folks that are planning into the future to see how the students are projected to grow and how the university is going to grow to meet any needs there. As far as what I'm specifically going to do, I do want to be, first and foremost, the voice, your guys' voice into the Board of Trustees. I do plan to work very, very closely with the student government to create an agenda, to create the right way of approaching the Board of Trustees. I think something to have a lot of clarity around that is that we have to be very purposeful in the way we approach the board. We can't show up with demands. We cannot show up in a confrontational manner. We have to work with them. We have to understand why they're making the decisions that they're making. We have to understand why we want the things that we want. And I don't want to call them negotiations because it's not like we all sit around the table and trade cards, but it really has to be a very purposeful, very methodical approach that we do with this guys if we want to be effective, right? We want to be as effective as possible. And so the way we approach those folks is going to be something a little nuanced, but that is the reality of the situation. So it's something that I'm going to work really closely with this team here, everybody that is part of the student population, to really understand how that approach is going to happen and what the best route is going to take there. So I'm going to advise you guys in a lot of that thing. I'm going to be very close to them. I'm hoping to build a lot of good relationships within the board. And so not only am I going to be carrying that message, but whenever you guys want to carry that message directly, I do want to serve as an advisor. I do want to serve as a consultant. I do want to serve as, let me point you in the right direction, how to do the approach, how to contact, how to navigate that situation. I'm hoping you guys can see somebody like that in me. Of course, as I get my CLEX, I am also pretty new. I have a 2-year appointment. My appointment is going to go through the spring semester of 2022. So, the longer I am the role, the more I'm hoping the more relationships I can have and the more I can advise you guys appropriately. Plus, as I understand, as I join these meetings, as I understand what is important to you folks, which is important for me to hear. It's important for you guys to be in close contact with your representatives within the student government, but also with me directly. I need to hear from you guys. I need to understand what's important to you so I can start creating my own agenda to push what's important for the government and not, or for the students, and not just, it's important for me, because that's not what this position is all about. So I do expect the range of work to be broad. I do want to pick a very I want to be purposeful in the 2, 3, 4 big projects that I want to make sure that are started and completed by the time I leave. But at this point, that's all I'm going to be doing. So I expect it to be a broad range of work as new things come up. Please know that you guys have an ally in me, and it is my job to make sure that your voices are being heard at the level of the trustees. Because I'm still getting my sea legs under me, I do want to go a little bit. Instead of having calls to action right now, I do expect the next assembly to be more of a call to action. Right now, I want to give you guys an idea of if you guys are interested in taking up the torch once I'm done with my appointment, again, a spring of 2022. I do want to get into how my position came to be, how you guys can get picked for the role if this is something that you guys are interested in. On the screen right now, we have the basic requirements, right? 18 years old, resident of the state of Ohio, basic, good academic standing, basic requirements that you would expect from the university. Once you apply, there is a call for applications the spring semester before my appointment is complete. And so there would be, I see it through email, but also through newsletters with the university. The application process will open up. They do expect you to apply a letter of intent, your expected graduation. If you are really keen like me and you really want to be part of the board of trustees, I was on a 2-year plan to graduate with my MBA. I decided to delay my graduation by 2 years so I could take this role. So they are flexible, right? I am spreading pretty much my last 2 semesters into 2 years worth of academic studies in order to be able to serve here. So expected date of graduation is a little bit fluid, but as long as you're going to be able to be in the role for 2 years, that's really what they're asking for. Your resume. So what makes you qualify for the position? In my case, I guess I should have made it part of my introduction. I am a mid-career guy. I do work for General Electric, the aviation sector in Evendale. I do run supply chain for the structural castings division within sourcing. And so I played a lot of my qualifications around that mid-career cycle that I am in right now. It's very important to me to, how to translate what the university is providing to you guys as students, how they are preparing you, whether you guys are going to go into an academic route or a private industry route or whatever that is. It is very important to me to understand what the university is doing for the students in order to prepare them for whatever comes after graduation. And so I did I ran my spiel and my application around that kind of rhetoric. Obviously grades, disciplinary releases, things like that. As far as the interview process goes, you do have to interview within the university. You interview with the provost, you interview with the president if appropriate, but then you also interview with the state of Ohio. The governor does have a division that they oversee all trustee appointments and all nonprofit appointments for the state. And so you do have to jump on the call with them, and they'll do an interview process before they can recommend the governor of the state to appoint you to the position. So that's a very quick rundown. I want to keep it under 10 minutes for the sake of timing, and I know everybody else is excited to see the reports from the actual government. But like I mentioned before, here's my contact information. If you guys feel more comfortable approaching your representatives of the government, I am very much in tune with them. So if you guys want to run questions through them, that's also fine, or through me directly, it's also fine. But please, keep me involved. I am here to serve you guys. I'm here to be the voice to the trustees, and I expect we're going to have a very productive 2 years.
Thank you so much, Jack. That was really helpful. And just to let the entire General Assembly know, we've been working with Jack from the get-go, so when he was appointed. So we've had a good relationship, and we really look forward to what we can achieve with the Board of Trustee relationship going forward this academic year, and also come up with some good, really achievable projects for the year. With that, I'm going to move on to my report. And we will have Jack on every General Assembly going forward, and we'll also give him the permission to make his own report too. With that, let me start my reports. I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to bring up some important agendas, try to stick with my time and try to finish it up in 10 minutes. I would ask the rest of the exec board to also finish their reports in 10 minutes so that we can give some time for the students to then ask us questions and just stay back and talk to us. So the first thing I want to report to you all is we have the graduate student emergency fund rolling. We secured a fund of up to $25,000 from the provost office. From the discussions that I've had with the provost office and the grad school dean, we might be able to request some additional pot of money as well. But then what I requested was somewhere in the order of $400,000. But then we came up with some realistic number which was close to $100,000. But then they said, as of now, given the the status, they would be able to only give us $25,000. So that's where the amount is as of now. But I did have a good conversation with the provost, and looks like we can get some more money. So the application is open on the Dean of Students website. Please do recommend this to all those graduate students in your GSAs who you think are disproportionately affected. Single parents, students who are international graduate students who are probably finding it hard to even live. We have seen concerns from Dean Cummins Bearcat Pantry, where of the 400 food coupons for Kroger, about 300 were used by graduate students alone. So that's a very big number of graduate student usage of the food coupons, which kind of shows us how much our community is affected here. So we want to really ensure this help is received. So currently we have Dean Cummins, Andrea, and 2 graduate students. We need a few more. We have a few graduate students in addition to 2 that you see on screen, but we are really trying to get a diverse community committee and not the committee with the same background. So especially I'm looking for graduate students from nursing, from medicine, from health sciences maybe, or someone from we don't have anyone from DAP right now. So maybe someone from more different backgrounds and different ethnicities would be nice to have on this committee. The purpose is we would like these students to be available on October 1st and 2nd, so that they can sit down with Andrea and Dean Cummins and go through the applications, filter out many of these. We already have 120 applications after I sent out that email to the general student body. If you're interested to serve on this committee, email me or email Andrea. We were looking forward to 2 more students at least. I mean, we are not sure how many more, but then we can take in the more diverse the committee is, the faster we can work and the more the applications we can finish. Also, without going in detail, just a quick comment. We have had some good communication with the dean as well as some grad council. There is also the talks that they are having to see if there's a way we can set up an emergency fund for graduate students on a recurring basis. Well, this is just a one-time emergency fund, but we are seeing if it would do any good, and we think it would do any good. But if there's a way we can actually, get some amount of money for graduate students alone, so that we can have access. And we have definitely seen that grad students are disproportionately affected, right? With that, I will see if I can. Probably I don't have enough time to take up questions right now, so I'm going to open up for questions at the end of my report. So if you have questions, do put it on the chat, and I will look into it towards the end.
Can I make a comment, Fareed? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, Andrea. Yep.
So right now we have, if you're interested, right now I have reserved with Dean Cummins October 1st, which is a Thursday, from 12 to 3. For the committee. So if you are potentially interested, if you've already emailed, thank you so much. You can even just shoot me a message in the chat here if there's something that you're interested in. But the bulk of the meeting will likely be that Thursday from noon to 3, just so y'all know.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. Thanks for touching upon that. The next that I have on is COVID updates. Just so you all know, Chan and I are on the COVID health incident command team, which the president has initiated. So we meet every day 4:30 to 5 p.m. with the various VPs across the university and directors from the university, where they update us on the cases and what's the scene at university, new measures that they're taking. So if you have any concerns regarding COVID, if you want to know, if you have any questions at all, please shoot an email to either me or Chan, so we can take this up to that committee, and maybe if you have any concerns, we might in fact be able to answer those concerns directly, because we do serve on that committee. So there is a dashboard now available on the website, which kind of looks like this. So they're trying to get their numbers better with the new app and the red cap data. So you will be, if you go to public health COVID-19 dashboard, you'll be able to pull up this dashboard, which is now active, and in fact they're updating on a daily basis now. So this you can see how the cases look like on an everyday basis. Also, they're trying to recently if a selected few students would have received an email saying, asking for random testing. So that's another initiative that the university is doing. So the random testing is completely free. So it's just to ensure that we can get more testing on university for those students on university campus, and ensure we can get a better understanding of what the numbers are on campus. So if you haven't installed the COVID Check app, please do go install this app. It's available on Apple Store and Google Play Store now. For the non-app users, you can simply complete a survey on RedCap. Those links you should have received an email from the vice president of from the dean of students or the student affairs, and make sure you follow that email and ensure you download this app. For now, if you need to, you fill up I think it's around 10 to 15 questions. You fill up those questions, you get a green pass if you are healthy enough to be on campus. And for now, they're making it's required to have this green pass to enter campus rec center and dining centers. From my conversations, I think they would likely push this forward to other departments and units as well, but that's still in a very early conversation. But we'll keep you updated as and when we know more information about this. COVID updates on budget. Andrea is going to talk more about this, but then we have a budget line for COVID, which we talked about in the orientation as well. We have ordered cloth masks. We are waiting for the vendor to deliver that to us. But as of now, we do have disposable masks. So if you're a grad student, if you think you're running out of masks, if you want to have, if you want to get some additional masks from us, please contact one of your exec board officers, and we will give you those masks. You just need to drop in at our office on Steger. Another update with regards to libraries, because there was some concerns. So I just wanted to know that the most of the libraries are open now. So as of September 14th, we had a couple of more department libraries go live. Only library that's not yet live, that's not yet open, is the Geophysics library. But then all the libraries that are live have some restrictions imposed. So you might want to go to this website, libraries.uc.edu, about COVID-19, and check for the updates and see if your department library is open, what the hours of operations are, because that would be important. It differs from libraries to libraries. Mostly the weekends, they're almost all, I think, including Langsam, from last when I checked, is closed. But they're trying to make sure that they can safely accommodate more students. And also, at the same time, again, with all of these, if you have general concerns, if you see something that's going wrong on campus and you want to take this forward and inform us, that'll be really helpful, so that we can take this up to the task force and bring the attention of the execs on those platforms. Final, I wanted to report as committee reps. I know a few, I think 2 or 3 grads to GSAs reached out to me because they had a confusion between what a committee rep is and what a member group representative is. So all of you on the panel list now are the member group representative, at least for this General Assembly, right? And for the future General Assembly, again, I'm going to stick to sending out this invitation to be panelists for the presidents of the given GSA. But if you have a permanent member, some of you have reached out to me. So if you have a permanent member that you want to be represented on this on this General Assembly, reach out to me, and that is for the member group representative only, which is different from the committee representative, which you see on screen. And they both can be the same, but they're not necessarily the same. The committee representative, for a committee representative, we need a student member from your GSG. Most of you have filled out the form that I sent out. This was sent out to the presidents of the GSAs. If you haven't yet, or if your GSA president hasn't reached out to you yet, make sure you contact them, so that if you are interested to be the committee rep, you can be on that committee. So as a committee rep, you will earn about $140 in honorarium as you serve an internal or an external committee for the GSG. That's all for my report. I'm going to briefly just take a question or two, or maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through chats and answer questions. In the meantime, in the interest of time, I'm going to let Shan take over that presentation. If you do have questions, please leave it on chat. I'm going to answer those questions.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I just want to take a breath here. We have been throwing so much information at you, and the format of this is not what we're used to, right? We're used to being in a big open space in our home in the AACRC where we can talk to each other, we can look at each other in the eye, we can interrupt each other, we can fight with each other. And we can hang out together after the meeting and clarify things. And I also know that for a lot of you, this is your very first assembly meeting. Now, some of you were with us in the summer for our special sort of irregular assembly meeting, but this is your first meeting. So I just wanted to welcome you. And I know that there are probably a lot of points of order that are a little confusing. You probably have questions about some acronyms or what people are doing, who they represent, the kinds of committees we sit on. We are trying our best this year, and that's one of our themes, transparency. And that's why we're bringing you representatives like Pat Kowalski, Renee Hargrove, VP Merchant. We hope to have her here. These are representatives we work with. We sit on all of these committees. Jack Cohen, our BOT rep. These people, we want them here. We want them to make sure they hear your voice directly because we see them all the time. They're sick of our faces. We want them to hear directly from you. So if there's anything more we can do to help by explaining committees, explaining, the jobs, or, helping you to understand processes of governance here, please let us know. Whatever sorts of suggestions you have for making these assembly meetings more bearable, we'll take those suggestions as well. So I just wanted to first very quickly call out to a couple of because attendance is an issue, of course, and we have a couple of issues too with Campus Link is not yet matching some of the records that we have. I want to thank you all for your patience with the Campus Link issues as we've switched over, and this has been sort of a new re-registration. But I'm just going to call out to the GSAs that I don't have a record of right now as being in attendance, and if the rep could just write their name and their GSA in the chat, or just say, it's me, I'm here, just please let me know. So I don't see art education. And I just want to go on record that I recognize a lot of these names, but for some reason, either there's a Campus Link misconnection or a record issue, but I just want to make sure I call out. So art education, if you're here, please let me know in the chat. Moving on, biology. I don't have a record of biology as being in attendance. Classics, I believe classics was here actually, but I want to make sure someone is still here for classics.
We swapped in someone new.
That's right. She did let me know that. Thank you. Okay, so next is nursing, College of Nursing. Okay. I thought I saw someone here from electrical, but is electrical engineering here? Okay. English. Okay, great. Thank you. I have your name written down, Rebecca. I thought I recognized it. And yeah, biology. I recognize both your names. So I just didn't want to. Thank you. So environmental and chemical engineering. I thought I saw. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, great. So chemical is Jacob. Yeah, I have all these names written down. I just didn't have them tied to GSAs. Thank you. Business is Lindner here. Okay, and mathematics. Okay, and then there's only a couple more here. Aerospace, I thought I saw them too. And the last two are philosophy and physics. Philosophy and physics. If either one of you are here, let me know. And I'll reach out to these GSAs anyway, just to see if they maybe were here for the first hour and couldn't stay. And I'll just make sure. But everyone else, thank you for putting that info in the chat. And then I wanted to remind you that if you or your you or the presidents and the treasurers from your GSAs were not able to come to the orientation, Andrea sent an email about watching the presentation and all the info. and yeah, sociology. I already have you. That's right, Carrie. Sorry, I should have clarified. I was only calling out the GSAs that I didn't catch earlier. So everybody else, if I didn't call you, it's because I knew you were here. I saw your names. I've got you down. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that. So anyway, so yes, please check for that message from the treasurer, Andrea, and there's a quiz in there. If you complete that by Friday so that we can make sure that everybody has the necessary treasurer and president training. And remember, please, that everyone you have to attend all. So if you miss up to 3, things start rolling where we have to decrease funding and make a note of it. We'll try to be very communicative with you about this, but I just wanted to remind everybody. Okay, moving on. So I wanted to point out the group grant awards. We'll be putting our committee together soon for that. As you know, Park did mention about the committee appointees, and the group grant, we have $1,000 right now. We've Andrea is going to talk more about this in the budget, but we have $3,000 for fall. We're sort of separating it out over the 3 months. We'll see what happens. Our upcoming deadline is October 2nd, and we are under some really interesting circumstances. In the past, we've used group grants. In case some of you didn't know, we've used it for things like speakers, movie nights, cross departmental events. So I was going to open and ask if anybody had some interesting upcoming ideas, but if you could please email me those ideas, or even put them here in the chat so that everybody could see them. Because if you've got some ideas for group grant activities that you want to do with your GSA this year, sharing some of those ideas would be great, because I know everybody is sort of struggling as to how to make the digital space more appealing and what we can do together. Oh yes, and good, Andrea put that message in the chat. That's important. Okay, moving on, please. I just want to make one next mention of the future deadlines, and that all these applications and documents are due by 5 p.m. on the date listed. Now, we went over these documents in the orientation, but I'm hoping to, I'm here to help you with those documents, and we're going to try and see if we can, write out or perhaps make a short video to help walk people through this process, because it can be confusing no matter what level of education we're at. So I will be reminding at each meeting of the next group grant deadline. So if you have questions about this, ideas for group grants, please let me know and I can pass them on to everybody. All right, moving on. I also wanted to mention the research fellowships quickly, and I will continue to bring these up. But this is something I wanted to put this be in your bonnet at the beginning of the year, and I'll take it and I'll keep reminding you because it's December 4th. This is a great way to get some extra money for your research funding. And there are some guidelines, there are some restrictions, but really we're trying to be as flexible and supportive, especially in these unique circumstances of graduate research. Excuse me. And we usually do go back to the research office and try and get more money if we can. So please use it up and, apply for these awards. And our committee will start reviewing applications, and I'm happy to show you again the paperwork, and we do have some examples of successful awards from the past, so we can help you with this. Oh, great! Thank you, Heather, for putting that in the chat. I appreciate that. Yes, Maria, I think I'm going to ask Andrea if she and I could make a little video. She's our video expert because she did all that great work on the graduation video this summer. So, but yes, I will be looking into getting something together as a walkthrough. Okay, so sorry, did I just miss a slide? My bad. Is this? Oh yeah, okay, so research fellows. All right, sorry, moving on. All right, so one of the major initiatives that if you've been here, this initiative has been taken up for a while. We are going to continue with this initiative, and we're really, some great things are in the works here. And Dominique and I have been working very hard this summer and had about 1,000 meetings to start getting this off the ground. And we realized at the end of the process that the best thing to do is to sort of take the reins on this and we've begun asking mental health professionals, and we've gotten a lot of great response from across the campus to put together a sort of network. So that we are all aware and we're focusing on advocacy for grads and making sure that grads have increased access to resources. If anyone is interested in this initiative, if anyone is interested in giving your time, we've had Gibbon and Stephanie, I don't think they're in the call right now, but we've had some grads from the assembly working with us, and we definitely are interested in more. If mental health is important to you, we will be looking for all sorts of help. For example, one of the initiatives we're putting together, Dominique and I are making groups. These are sort of groups just for grads to be able to come together, hang out, talk about the issues they see. Maybe they just need to vent on the newest comments of the chapter by their advisor. Maybe they just need to talk about some interdepartmental drama that they can't voice within their departments. Maybe they need to talk about the pressures of, imposter syndrome. All of these things will be welcome in the group that we are putting together in our new part of our new structure for mental health. And we are working together with some of these amazing, the new person sort of steering the ship over at the Women's Center is incredible. Her name's Dominique Brown. And she has a great background in this. In fact, she's doing her PhD thesis on it, and she's going to be helping a lot. So we'd love if you have suggestions for allies. Our Dominique has also been reaching outside of the campus and sits on a committee that's sort of a mental health feedback committee. And so we're bringing all this together and really trying to put this for us. This is for us. This is for the people that you care about in your networks, your colleagues, your families. But also remember that you are the point of contact. Oh, wow. Look at this response, y'all. You're going to make me cry. So you are the point of contact for your students as well. And you're going to hear me say this a lot, maneuvering from the mentee to the mentor. This is a tough role for all of us. I know I'm used to just sitting and looking up adoringly at my professors. And now it turns out that I, have 2 classes of 115 that are looking at me and I have no idea what I'm doing. So they come to my office, they ask me questions that are very difficult. They ask me all sorts of things from LGBTQ concerns, to discrimination concerns. I've been very surprised at the spectrum of concerns. So this is something for you to handle those things as well and pass on all this good information to your students. So, and I will be going back through this chat and taking down all of these comments and making notes of all of these things. So thank you so much. I really wish we were all in a big room together so I could not give you a group hug, but look at you adoringly. So, and speaking of mental health resources, and remember, you will have a copy, you should already have a copy of all of these things. You feel free to steal this slide and put it out there for your undergrads, put it out there for your colleagues, put this in your note to your GSAs as you're reaching out to all your students. This is just a slide for now about these links all work. They're all good slides. This was compiled by Mohan last year. I added I think a few links, 5 links, and there's just some really more information about all the things that we can access right now. And we're trying to raise awareness of this and work with these partners too. And the CAPS information from the grad school is an interesting bit that explains to you sort of, how to approach CAPS and what it's really for, because I think there's some confusion between what CAPS can do and what UHS can do and so on and so forth. So we'll try to get all this information wrapped up in a nice package where grads can advocate for themselves and others. So please be aware of more coming on that from Dominique and I. All right, moving on. And then I just want to take a moment, because I mentioned at the beginning about points of order and what we do and all of these different things. We have these stipends, and what is this all going for? It's been a very, very busy summer. We sit on all these committees, and we're trying to increase transparency and inclusion. So if you have questions about this, the governance structure, what the heck is SACUB doing in our very first meeting? Well, there have been some issues with that, and it's an important body that we're trying to look at. And, we're going to have to raise a motion and pass it. So how do we do that, right? We give ideas, or you give ideas to the assembly, because these motions can be raised by us or by any of you, which most of you probably know, but I just want to give this out for the new people. And for example, if there's something that I believe it was English last year had raised a resolution about about something that was very important to them. And we discussed it over a couple of meetings and voted on it. So when you vote, you can vote yay, nay, or abstain. And I've used all those votes in my role for different reasons. So if you do have any of these questions, no question too silly, please email me. I'm happy to talk to you. You can call me even, you can text me. I'll put my number here. I'm very available to talk to anybody. Unfortunately, like you all, I'm up late at night. So, and feel free if you just you want to chat about all this overwhelming information you've got today. All right, moving on. Speaking of motions, we do need to talk about Sacoup. And I know that it's possible we may not get to vote on this today, but we did want to talk to you about it. And, you know, Claire, I'm about to go off book here. So if you need to mute me, Parek, I'll understand. But, you know, Claire from Health Sciences asked me a really interesting question in the private chat. She asked me, how do we executives feel about the Sacoup issue? And there's been a little, I want to just give you just a moment of context, okay? Because why is Sacoup in our first meeting, and why do we care so much about this? And why do we have a resolution from last year? Now, without diving too much into the weeds, there have been some legitimate issues about Sacoup. And this resolution does discuss it, right? Last year, there were some difficult feelings between Sacoup committee members and graduate students. And I definitely do not want to illegitimize the struggle and the frustration that they went through in the past. And having been here at this university, both as an undergrad and then after my master's degrees, I came back so I've seen Sacoup in its operation. It has gotten better, but to be honest, for a long time, it's operated like an old boys club where people nominate their friends. And this was a very legitimate concern in the early days, but things have changed a lot. And last year, the concerns were about things, as you can see here in the resolution from last year, issues of transparency, issues of diversity, and looking at Sacoup, and you can very easily access their page on the website. I encourage you to do so because they have a lot of money that they're allocating. So it's important to understand these bodies, that it's not as representative of the population as it needs to be. And these are questions we brought directly to VP Merchant and to Ms. Renee Hargrove, whom you spoke with either. We've also been in direct consultation with Chase and Hunter. And I have to say, even though I do think that the concerns from last year were very legitimate, and I'm just speaking for myself right here, I'm not going to speak for Dominique, Andrea, and Parek, although we've talked about this incessantly over the summer. You know, these are very legitimate concerns, but I'm really appreciative that VP Merchant and Ms. Hargrove have been the most straight talking of almost all the administrators we've spoken with. They have been the most forthright and the least political doublespeak talking of a lot of the administrators we've spoken with. And I do believe they are on our side. And their advice to us is that we cannot stay away from the table if we want to help them make some changes. We had legitimate concerns, right? Where's the student with disability representative? Where are the veterans representative? Where's the representative from all the different colleges? Where's making sure that we have an LGBTQ representative? Well, chairs have been created for these, to represent these areas. And while I think the body still needs some work on that respect, I think they are changing. This is just my opinion. I do think they are changing, and maybe the other execs have something to say about this. And also, this is very important to note. If we do not take our chairs back, and right now we're in a great position where they've not formally disavowed our chairs, right? They haven't taken them away from us formally yet. So we can move back in if we get the go ahead from the assembly, which it's definitely totally up to you, and you can ask a lot of questions about this, and I encourage you to do so. But if we don't take them up, they will be released to at-large chairs. And I can't speak definitely on where the chairs will go, but I doubt they'd go to grads. So we won't
go to undergrads.
Yeah, they would go to undergrads, probably more undergrads of the same that we already have. So, and right now we have a very high representation on Sacoup from engineering and business. And I just think it would be great if we could work with them to change up some of that. So Parek, let me ask you from here, what do you want to do about this motion? Are we tabling this till next time, or?
Yeah, I think we should table it for the next time, Chan. I don't think we have time to discuss this, and maybe we should give a couple of weeks for our GSAs to respond, have a conversation within the GSA, because last time we did raise this motion, I think we didn't have enough discussion. Probably we can give them some more time to have this discussion. We do have highlighted a few motions that the General Assembly can pass, or something. You can bring up something different as well. But do have this conversation within your GSAs. And again, I would echo Chan's voice as well as add this, that we can sit out of Sakub. There's no harm at all. We've been doing that for the past 4 months. We've also been successful in ensuring that Andrea sits on all of those other important committees, and I sit on the FCC and other committees, voicing your opinions. But I think by not being on Sakub, we're kind of losing out one more platform to raise our voices and get this direct, communication with the administrators. But that being said, Sakub is just an advisory committee, right? So it is not the committee which imposes rules or makes the decisions. It just advises the university to make decision. So I just wanted to be transparent with you all on what Sakub is, what it means to stay out, and what it would mean to stay within Sakub, right? It would be great. There would be a great ally, but again, it would be up to us to ensure we bring about those institutional changes within Sakub as graduate student representatives. I would just end at that in interest of time. And Chan, if you want to add another comment, we will just you can, and then we'll go on to Andrea.
Great. And yeah, Parag, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is also another one of the concerns, right? How much voice does Sakub actually have in the administration? I mean, we have the Office of Finance there, we have, the Student Affairs is there, but that has been another concern of ours. And that is something that I think that body is trying to address. And I'm seeing in the chat that people are saying, should we go back with provisions? And I think the attitude right now is we need to go back with the intent to start to listen, recognize that this new Sakub chair and the execs are all new as well, just like we are a new exec board. And we need to listen to each other first and see. But you heard Ms. Renee talk about changes to the structure being made early on in the process. So we're hoping to get in on that and to voice our voices and your voices, more importantly, on that. So please do reach out. Let me know. These are very good concerns. The end of the year, it was put in the meeting after elections. And so the resolution was hurriedly tacked on, unfortunately, because it is an important issue. And we do need to take it up. So we're starting the conversation right now, and we will be bringing this up again then in the second assembly. But in the meantime, please do ask questions. I will be making note of everything that's in the chat, and please communicate with us on this and with your GSAs. I know it's a lot of information, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Chan. Andrea?
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. So I know we're short on time, so I will try to be as quick as possible. If you were at orientation, a lot of this will be a repeat for you. But as you heard from Renee, our budget is significantly different. We are functioning right now with a fall-only budget. So this slide, which we do right now, this is a proposal because the budget that we voted on as assembly last year is void because it is not the budget we have. So we do need to pass this, but this is kind of my proposal for the moment. So we were given $124,000 for the fall from Sakub. Just so you know, our 1920 Sakub allocation, it's less than half. It is. But I know, like Claire, you read, like we have less expenses. We're not doing events. There have been less conferences. So everything you see here is just for the fall side. And there's one big caveat on this: student travel, which I know looks extremely low. Our conference awards, only $40,700, and last year we allocated over $225,000. Is that if we run out of money, we can ask for more. So basically, what they did with the leftover pot of Sakub money from last year, the university took $2 million out of it to cover the student refunds, but then they've kept it in one place for all of the student organizations because they're not sure who needs it. So if we run out, we do have the ability to get more money. So I know this looks a little bit scary, but it is not a be all end all. We can't get anything else, just so you know. And then for group budgets, right now that does include $100 for every single one of the GSAs to hold an orientation. So if you do not do that by the end of the month, you'll be forfeiting that $100, and that will go to group grant budget, just, so we can increase that a little bit. As Preek mentioned, we did add a line here for COVID supplies. Our mask order, which will be coming soon, is on that. So I do believe we need to go ahead and vote on this. So someone can raise a motion, that would be lovely.
We would need if you have any questions, or if you're happy with this the way we have reallocated, please someone can raise the motion to vote on the budget. Yes, Claire. If you can have someone unmute and say, okay, Claire raised the motion. If someone can second it. Thanks, Claire.
Second.
All right. All right. We could probably just take a count of nays first, I guess, and then then assume that everyone else is and those who are not in this room are abstaining, and those present would then be. I think that would be the easiest way to go forward. So anyone who's against this budget proposal, either mute yourself, or you can add your comment on chat, or you can send it directly to Chan if you want it to be private, but it's generally out there for the entire General Assembly to see. So I don't see any nays. Just before I go, consider that everyone else agrees with this. Is there someone who wants to abstain other than those of the representatives who are not in the room? Anyone who wants to abstain? All right, I don't think we have any nays or abstaining. Looks like this motion is passed. Thank you, General Assembly. Andrea, I'm going to leave it to you to go into the next of the slides.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this is just where we are currently. I put our fall SACUB allocation over here. I haven't accounted for, if you saw from the last slide, we do have some money from the provost office and from the graduate school that has rolled over. That is not in the same account as our SACUB money, so we'd like to use our SACUB money first so we can ask for more, because that money will go with us to spring, which hopefully things will be more normal and we can use. So as you can see, we haven't had very much conference travel. We are currently supporting remote conferences, which I will get into. Yeah, so our expenses are very low. The officers have received their honorariums for summer and fall, so that will be less for spring. So this is where we are so far. We still have some money left. Yeah, so any questions, let me know. This is where we are. Okay. You can keep going on. Great. Thank you. Okay, so conferences. So remote conferences are supported. It is the same $500, $200 limits with the $500 max. And I'm sorry if you're orientation, this is a repeat. Currently, travel is suspended through at least 2020. They may move that, but so at least for now, this is our only option. And then just, the only reimbursable expense for a remote conference is your conference registration fee. It also does not cover if you have to join an organization to attend a conference, that membership fee is not covered. So it's just the registration fee for the conference itself. So the other big change is that we are transitioning our application process through CampusLink. And there are a number of reasons for this. One, it is in accordance with the new accessibility standards put forth by the university. We can no longer have fillable PDFs. Also, it integrates with our budget, so it gives us better record keeping and tracking. The other side of it is that instead of getting physical signatures, there will be electronic approvals. It's as we move to CampusLink, there's just a lot of things that it can really do for us. So this is a change for everyone, and I know that. And there's two kind of caveats right now. So if you are in CECH or in CEAS, this is not going live for you quite yet. Everybody else, you are good to go literally at the end of this meeting. We have everything set up. I think Preek will make it go live on our website. For CECH and CES, since you have college matching funds, basically we're still working out with your schools how to do those, because the money that comes from us is a reimbursement since it's coming from student fee money. whereas the matching funds from your colleges are considered scholarship awards. So they're just processed a little bit differently. So we're going to figure out how to kind of like make that work. And if you've applied for conference travel in the past, you'll notice the refund was to your Catalyst account. That's no longer going to happen that way. It's going to be reimbursed through a different system, which if you are a part of UC Flex, if you have been a UC employee or graduate assistant, you've already familiar with this. Otherwise, it'll be a paper check to your home. Part of the reason for this is that our conference travel awards are not scholarship funds. And by applying them to your Catalyst account, they are kind of counted as awards, which technically they are not. And if you were at the maximum funding limit, you would not be eligible. And also, if you had a balance left on your Catalyst, it would be applied against that, which isn't really fair because you're getting reimbursed for money you already spent. So the reimbursement process will look slightly different, just so you know. Okay, so GSA officers have to sign off on the applications just like normal. So what happens in the application is you manually enter the email address and name of your approver. And so this is what it will look like. So Parikh made an application and he added me as an approver. So this, I got an email from Campus Link. This is what it looks like. And then you hit review submission and then it will take you, you'll see the application is actually to the left of the screen, but this is what it looks like on the right side. So you won't have this top your review part because I have to approve all of the applications, but then everybody who's been added as a reviewer will be in this reviewer section. And so you have the option for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you thumbs down it because you notice something's missing, or you're like, hey, this isn't like a legitimate conference, or you know things, you have the option to add a comment, and people can resubmit on their same application. So yes, so I will not be approving until all of the approvers have these little, their thumbs up taken care of. So that's just how it will work and how it will look. And in the coming week, I'm going to be making video tutorials just walking through the application process since it is a change. So those will be there to help out. But if you have any questions, please message me, email, all of the above. Carrier pigeon is probably not the best option. But happy to help you with this transition because I know it is new. And then for you CECH and CEAS members, we will let you know as soon as we have a solution. But for now, if you do need an application, email me and I will send it to you just because we're kind of still functioning on the old system just for those two colleges. Okay, orientation reminder that you are eligible for that extra $100 for holding an orientation. Please just email me proof of your orientation by the end of the month. And then once again, I know we talked about this before, but if you did not receive the email from me and you missed orientation, just let me know so I can get you that quiz. I believe that's everything. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we are a little running late, but then we are having we have Dominic, and then we are just going to open up the floor for questions, and I will ask everyone to stay back. Dominic, if you can finish your report.
Yeah, and I will make this quick. So again, I'm Dominique. I'm the campus ambassador. If you go to the next slide. And as I said before, my hours in the GSG office are from 11:30 to 4:30 on Mondays. So this is just a review of events that we've had since the summer up until recently. We've been implementing mental health initiatives, such as Stop Talking Grow, that was in collaboration with CAPS. We also did an event in collaboration with the grad school. We're honoring graduate students because they weren't able to walk across the stage due to the pandemic. So master's and PhD students, we did an electronic book, and we went live for students to be recognized. So that was great. And right now we are continuously working with networking and building connections with the Dean of the grad school. And we're doing that through our event called the GSG Dean and Dine. Again, it is the second Thursday of every month. So if you can all please just, take some time to sign up for that. This is a great opportunity to really network with the Dean of the grad school, Dr. Raj Mehta, for him to get to know graduate students. So please be sure to sign up for the next one that will be held in October. And we had our new student orientation for the new graduate students, and that went well. That was virtual. We had people like VP Merchant, Dr. James Mack, President Pinto, so on and so forth, come out and give some good words and provide helpful information, such as from grad school caps and of that nature. So that's the events that we've had so far, and we're definitely looking to have more to come. You can go to the next slide. So brainstorming, I believe all the e-board and you all as participants and attendees have been giving comments about, helping us to understand how we can best serve you. So again, what kinds of events are you most likely to attend? What would you like to see from us? As we heard from, Janice Raphael, how can we help to include and expand diversity and participation? And overall, what can we do better? So just something to think about. If you have any ideas, please let me know. You can email me at any time, and that's that. So you can go to the next slide. So be sure to visit us. As I said before, my office hours are from 11:30 to 4:30 on Mondays in 683 Steger. If you guys don't know what Steger, that's what it looks like on the outside. Due to the pandemic, we are having limited people in the lounge space, but you are open to come and take a break however you see fit in the lounge space. We're currently not using the kitchen, but yeah, be sure to come and contact us, visit us. And you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, our website, and on Instagram. That's where we're posting a lot of our information.
Okay, I believe that's pretty much it. I thank all the GSA representatives for making here on our General Assembly. We will follow up on several of the topics and motions that we might have to consider for the next General Assembly. Please do talk to your GSAs, all your members, and see what's the best that you want to, how you would like to respond to both the racial equity, supporting racial equity call for action from the undergraduate students government side, and also how you'd like GSG to respond to SACUB going forward in this academic year. With that, I adjourn the meeting unless someone has any questions. Is there any question for us in general? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, but we will, the exec board will stay back. So if you want to stay back and ask questions, I'm going to make all the participants as panelists, so you can unmute yourself and ask us any questions or just talk to us, right? Thank you for making to this General Assembly. See you all on October the 7th, I guess. That's the first Wednesday. So when is it? That's October 7th. That's right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Kayla, we can hear you.
I have two things I wanted to briefly talk about.
Before you ask this, Kayla, do you want me to stop recording? I just, usually I just ask this question before I continue recording.
Oh, I don't care either way, it's fine.
All right, anyways, just stop. All right.
Yeah.